day without ECS. God says in Matthew 7:24, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who builds his house on a rock. ECS was a cornerstone that God used in my life to form a foundation. I've gotten to play in some pretty awesome situations during my career, including a bunch of game-winning field goals. But to be honest, these were all incredible experiences, but the most memorable play that I've had in my career came in 8th grade. It was the final game of our season, and we only had 16 total players on the whole team. I played offensive line, defensive line, and then every phase of special teams. We only had 2 substitutes for actually most of the games due to injuries. But looking back, it's really amazing that they even let us play those games. Let's see. Going into our final game, we hadn't won any games all season. As you can see, we didn't have a whole lot of talent. But going into the final game, we really wanted to beat our biggest rival, Briarcrest, the evil empire. They just built a brand new fancy sports complex that they were real proud of. And the 7th and 8th grade games that night were going to be the first games that ECS and Briarcrest faced each other. So obviously the incentive was there. They had 55 players on their team. And at the end of the game, the game came down to 1 point, and we had a chance to win the game on a game-winning field goal. Our kicker trotted out to kick the field goal to give us possibly our only win of the season. And I snapped the ball. Casey Hill gave a good hold, and unfortunately the ball barely made it over the line of scrimmage. We thought the game was over until we saw the flag on the field, roughing the kicker. They gave us one more try with no time left on the clock. Our only problem was that our kicker had been injured on that play. So out trots our starting running back, Hall Simmons, who had played every phase, every down, and he had never kicked a ball all season, but somehow he was our backup kicker. Anyway, ball was snapped, kick went up, went right down the middle of the uprights. I tell you what, there was no confetti falling, but that felt as good as a Super Bowl win right there. We were 1-7. We couldn't have been happier. That year, I learned that pregame meals really do matter, and that there's more to life than a winning record. Fast forward to my junior year at ECS, I was the backup long snapper and the backup center for the varsity team. I'd gone to a snapping camp at UT in order to get better in hopes of winning the starting job. I was disappointed I didn't win it in training camp, but I was determined to be ready just in case my name was called. During the first game of the season, our starting snapper had a couple bad snaps due to his playing all positions on the field. And so they called my name to go and replace him for that game. I did well enough to finish the game and earn the spot permanently. Later that season, as difficult as this story is to relive, honestly, it's important for my personal growth as I look back on it. We were playing Central High School, and it was a team we should have beat by probably 50 points. I mean, it was supposed to be a rollover game for us. But instead, we found ourselves at the end of the game down by a couple points, and in a similar situation that I've been in before, at field goal to win the game. So I only had one job. Like I said, I was the long snapper, and I just had to get the ball to the holder. But unfortunately, I let the moment get too big for me, and I sailed it over Casey's head, and we fell to Central High School. I do remember that feeling of failure. It was the first I'd experienced in that magnitude. So it was difficult for me, but I remember walking off the field and having Coach Durham put his arm around me as we're walking off the field, and he reminded me that one moment in our lives is not greater than what the Lord has planned for us. It was the ECS community that had lifted my spirits and helped me to remind me of my purpose. My senior year, I stepped into the role of full-time center and long snapper for the Eagles. The previous graduating class had left a lot of holes on our team. So our senior group was still mostly made up of the team that had beaten Briarcrest just 4 years prior. So we needed a lot of help from the younger guys, the junior class, in order to fill those gaps. Though we came close to beating a lot of teams, a lot of the top teams in Memphis that year, we still had our eyes set on Briarcrest. They had a new offensive lineman that everybody was talking about. The first time I saw Michael Orr was my sophomore year. He was sitting in the stands at a basketball game, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I'm really glad I don't have to go against that guy. But I turned to a friend, and he said, you know he's the same age as us, right? I was like, I'm sure I turned ghost white thinking about having to go against a 340-pounder. At a rock solid 180 pounds, I was really just hoping to get in the way. So by our senior year, Mike had only been playing offensive line. So again, relieved that I wasn't probably going to have to face him, being that I was on the offensive line as well. But as luck would have it, Mike made his debut on the defensive line in our game. As the game went on, we quickly learned that Mike wasn't built for playing both sides of the ball. Our running scheme wore him down, and we ended up scoring 15 unanswered points and beat the loaded Briarcrest Saints in their fancy new Notre Dame helmets. That was a huge victory for us. However, we would fall to them in the state championship later that year. But I wouldn't have believed it at the time, but Mike and I would later meet on a recruiting trip to Tennessee and later win a Super Bowl together in Baltimore. So as many of you know, one of ECS's missions is to encourage students to know Christ and develop excellence not only in school, but in character as well. Chapel each week challenged us and reaffirmed our faith in Christ. Mr. Brink's senior Bible class gave us the best preparation we could ask for as we headed into our new life of independence in the real world. The toughness of my coaching staff at ECS prepared me for my time at Tennessee with Coach Fulmer and all the pressures of the NFL and professional football. When I got to Tennessee, the snapper position had been determined for the upcoming season. So I knew there was a slim chance that I wouldn't be playing for the Vols that year. I still had to earn my spot on the team. We had 8 snappers, and I guess the coaches at some point realized that was a little bit ridiculous, and they lined 5 of us up after practice one day and let us snap for Coach Fulmer. He definitely made his presence felt. He stood behind the punter so that when we were looking at the punter, he was in full view. And so as a lowly freshman, that was rather intimidating for me. But I snapped well, I made it through the tryout, but I learned quickly that I would need to earn my spot every year in order to stay on the team. I watched the 2 older snappers and modeled my game after them. And finding successful people and learning from them has been a valuable lesson for me to this day. Every NFL player has a different path to the NFL. Mine began when my mom and dad were out to eat in Memphis one night. Through a series of events that really only God could put together, I was able to play in the Senior Bowl and get looked at by all 32 NFL teams. Several were interested in me coming into camp